Imagine a quiet night in Florida. It is January 2026. Most people are fast asleep, but one person is wide awake. Donald Trump is sitting in his room. The only light comes from his phone screen. He is watching numbers move on a screen, numbers from South Korea. In South Korea, it is already the middle of the afternoon because they are 14 hours ahead of Washington, D.C. He sees their stock market, the Kospi, moving up. It is moving too fast for his liking. 6 months ago, he shook hands with leaders from South Korea. They promised a huge deal worth $350 billion. But there is a problem. The people who make the laws in South Korea, the National Assembly, still haven't said yes to the deal. Trump's helpers are all asleep. His tech and trade experts won't wake up for hours, but Trump does not want to wait. He opens his favorite app, Truth Social. At exactly 2:37 a.m., he types just 10 words. He says that South Korea is not keeping its promise. 2 hours later, that message hits the city of Seoul like a lightning bolt. It is 4:37 p.m. there. Suddenly, the rules for trade change. The tax on things coming from Korea to America, which we call tariffs, jumps from 15% all the way up to 25%. This causes total panic. There are emergency meetings. Money starts moving everywhere. But while everyone was looking at their phones and panicking about Korea, something else was happening 9,000 miles away in India. In New Delhi, 2 other very powerful leaders were finishing a secret plan. This plan would make Trump's bad day much, much worse. What happened in the next 36 hours is something people will talk about for the next 50 years. It was the moment America's friends stopped asking for permission to do things. It was the moment the old way of trading, which started after World War II, finally broke apart. Welcome to the show. Before we dive into the details, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Why? Because the big news stations are calling this a small fight about taxes. They are wrong. We are going to show you that this was actually a giant, planned attack. If you think that 2:37 a.m. post was the start of something huge, give this video a like. I am going to show you exactly what happened, where the money went, and why 3 different countries tricked the United States while we were looking the wrong way. Leave a comment below. Do you think this is just about taxes, or is it something much bigger? Let's get into the minute-by-minute story. It all started on Sunday, January 25th, 2025. A man named Scott Bessent, who is the Treasury Secretary, went on a TV show called ABC News. He said something very strange. He said that America put a 25% tax on India because India was buying oil from Russia. Then he pointed out that Europe just signed a trade deal with India. He wasn't just sharing news, he was giving a warning. He knew something bad was coming. Fast forward 48 hours. It is now January 27th at 2:37 in the morning. Trump sends out his threat to South Korea. He tells them to pay up the $350 billion or face the 25% tax. In Seoul, the stock market immediately starts to fall. It drops almost 1% in just 15 minutes. The leaders in Korea are scared. They send their trade ministers on a fast plane to Washington to try to fix it. But here is the part everyone missed. While the Korean leaders were rushing to the airport, a lady named Ursula von der Leyen from Europe and a man named Narendra Modi from India were sitting together. They were signing papers. Just 36 hours after Trump's scary post, they announced a massive deal. They called it a free trade agreement. This deal connects 2 billion people. If you add up all their money, it is 27 trillion. That is 25% of all the people on Earth and 25% of all the money in the world. These 2 groups, Europe and India, had been trying to make this deal since 2007. They stopped and started many times. But suddenly, right after Trump threatened Korea, they finished everything in a huge hurry. That wasn't just normal business. That was a panic move. They were hurrying because they were afraid of what America might do next. The big news websites didn't think this was a big deal. They put the story on the back pages. They talked about small things, like the tax on cars in India dropping from 110% to 10%. That sounds boring, right? But when you follow the money, you see the truth. This wasn't 2 separate stories. It was one big coordinated move. Stop right there, go to the comments and tell me, do you think it's a coincidence that the Europe-India deal happened right after the Korea threat? I don't think so. Smash that like button if you're starting to see the big picture, because I'm about to show you a secret document signed on January 26th, one day before all the chaos started. It was hidden on page 12 of a big financial newspaper. It was a deal between Russia and India for $60 billion worth of gas for the next 25 years. Most people will never hear about that deal, but you are here, so you are going to get the full story. Let's look at what everyone says. Trump says, South Korea promised us $350 billion. We have protected them with our army for 70 years. We have 28,000 soldiers there. They need to pay us. The leader of Europe says, the deal with India is just about working together and being friends. That is what they say out loud. But here is the secret. That $350 billion Trump wants from Korea is a huge amount of money. It is more than 10% of everything Korea earns in a year. To give you an idea of how big that is, think about the Marshall Plan. That was the money America used to rebuild all of Europe after World War II. In today's money, that was $150 billion. Trump is asking Korea for more than double that amount just to stop attacks. Now look at what the stock market did. After Trump's 2:37 a.m. post, the Korean market fell. That's normal. But then something crazy happened. By the end of the day, the Korean stock market didn't just go back up, it hit an all-time high. It went up over 2.7%. That means $43 billion was added to the value of their companies in one day. What does that tell us? It tells us that the people with the money don't believe Trump. They think Korea is stronger than he thinks. They are calling his bluff. Now, let's talk about the timing of the India-Europe deal. Trump had been mean to Europe for weeks. He even talked about Greenland. Europe saw that Trump was serious about using power. They saw what happened in Venezuela on January 3rd. So, the deal with India was their backup plan. They were telling America, we don't need you. We can make our own $27 trillion club. The American Treasury Secretary, Mr. Bessent, tried to warn Trump about this on TV, but Trump sent the Korea post anyway. Europe responded by finishing the India deal even faster. It's like a game of chess. Trump moved his piece, and Europe moved theirs even faster to block him. Now let's look at the third secret layer, Russia. One day before Trump yelled at Korea, Russia and India signed that $60 billion gas deal. Because of world rules, Russia can't sell its gas to Europe easily. So they sell it to India for a very low price, 40% cheaper than normal. India then takes that oil and gas, cleans it up, and sells it to Europe. Europe gets the energy they need, India makes a big profit, and Russia gets a customer. Technically, no one is breaking the rules, but they are totally going around America's back. America tried to punish India with a 25% tax on buying Russian oil. India's answer was to sign a giant deal with Europe to sell even more. It's a perfect loop. Russia needs money, India needs cheap energy, and Europe needs power. All three of them win, and America is left out in the cold. America tried to use sanctions to stop Russia, but they actually just created a new club that doesn't use the American dollar and doesn't care what Washington says. If you are just realizing that a simple trade deal is actually a secret war, hit that like button. We just saw Europe and India build a $27 trillion wall in 36 hours. Comment below, how much longer do you think America will stay the boss of the world if this keeps happening? Now, let's see who really won and who really lost. First, let's look at China. China didn't even have to do anything. They just sat back and watched America fight with its own friends. While Trump was fighting with Korea, Korea started selling more computer chips to China, 12% more. China also controls the special materials used to make phones and electric cars. They quietly made it harder for other countries to get those materials while everyone was distracted by Trump's tweets. The India-Europe deal is also great for China. Why? Because they are starting to use their own money instead of the American dollar. When countries stop using the dollar becomes less valuable. China wants its money, the yuan, to be the most important in the world. In 2025, more and more countries started joining a group called BRICS. This group has more money and more people than the United States. Now, who lost? The United States. In just 36 hours, America lost the power to tell its friends what to do. Before, countries would ask America for permission before making big deals. Now, they just do it. Also, America showed that it will use taxes as a weapon, so other countries are looking for ways to avoid using the dollar. This creates a domino effect. If countries don't need dollars to buy oil or gas, they stop keeping dollars in their banks. Then they sell their American IOUs, which we call treasuries. When that happens, it costs the US government more money to borrow. America has $36 trillion in debt. If the interest rate goes up just a little bit, it costs billions of extra dollars. Back in 1999, 71% of the world's savings were in dollars. By 2026, it dropped to 58%. If it goes below 50%, that is the tipping point where America loses its superpower status. Think about it like this. American power is like a big stick. It works because you can cut people off from using your money. But if people have a different kind of money, your stick doesn't hurt them anymore. Russia is trading with China, Iran is selling oil for Chinese money, and Venezuela is paying for things with crude oil. The stick is getting dull, but someone you didn't expect is winning big. India. The leader of India, Mr. Modi, is playing a very smart game. He is buying cheap oil from Russia, selling it to Europe for a high price, getting military help from America, and signing giant deals with everyone. India's bank account grew by 58 billion in just 1 year. They are making friends with everyone and getting rich while the bigger powers fight. South Korea, on the other hand, is stuck in the middle. They need the American army to protect them from North Korea, but their businesses need China to stay rich. After Trump threatened them, their stock market went up, which means the people in Korea aren't as scared as they used to be. Their president is trying to balance both sides, but it's getting harder and harder. To understand this, we have to look at history. In 1971, President Nixon changed the rules of money without telling anyone. This made Europe create their own money, the euro. In 2003, President Bush went to war in Iraq, and Europe didn't like it. This made the friendship weaker. In 2017, Trump left many big international agreements. Now in 2026, with the invasion of Venezuela and the threats to Korea, the process is moving even faster. Let's look at the numbers again. The dollar's share of world savings was 71% in the year 2000. In 2026, it is 58%. That is a big drop. The use of Chinese money went from 2% to 7%. If this keeps going by 2035, the dollar won't be the king anymore. Also, the average tax on things coming into America used to be 2.5%. Now it is over 13%. That is the highest it has been since the Great Depression in 1934. What does this mean for the future? There are 3 ways this could go. Scenario number 1 is a slow slide. This is the most likely outcome, with a 45% chance. This happened to the British pound a long time ago. It used to be the most important money, but it slowly became just a normal currency. If this happens, by 2035, your $100,000 in savings will only buy about $70,000 worth of stuff. Things will just get more expensive slowly. Scenario number 2 is a sudden crash. There is a 30% chance of this. This would happen if something big breaks, like if Saudi Arabia stops taking dollars for oil, or if China suddenly sells all its American debt. This could happen in just a few months. If this happens, your retirement money could lose almost half its value overnight. Scenario number 3 is a planned change. This has a 25% chance. This is where all the big countries sit down and agree on a new way to handle money. This is the best way, but because everyone is fighting right now, it is the least likely to happen. Why should you care? Because when the dollar loses its power, prices at the store go way up. We call this inflation. When the British pound lost its status, things in England got 24% more expensive. That means your 5 milk becomes $6.20, your $2,000 rent becomes $20,500. Also, interest rates will go up. If you have a house payment of $20,500 a month, it could jump to $3,500. That's an extra $12,000 a year you have to pay the bank. The sad part is that the things America is doing to try to stay powerful are actually making it lose power faster. The taxes make countries trade with China. The punishments force them to find new ways to pay for things. The mean talk makes our friends look for other partners. It's like a person who tries to hold on to a handful of sand too tightly. The harder they squeeze, the faster the sand falls through their fingers. So, what happens next? On January 29th and 30th, the people who make laws in Korea will have a big debate. They might not pass the deal Trump wants just because they are angry at being threatened. If Trump puts the taxes on them before February, they might say no to everything. In February, the money leaders of the world will meet in France. If they all agree on one thing, the world might stay stable. But if they all start making their own separate deals, it means the group is falling apart. By April, we will see if Korea gives in or finds a way to delay. Most likely, they will sign the deal but add secret rules that let them leave later. By June, the Europe-India deal will be almost finished. If the European leaders pass it easily, it means they are united against Trump. If they struggle, it means Trump can still win by dividing them. The world is splitting into two paths. Path 1 is about safety. Countries will still work with America for their armies and protection. Path 2 is about money. Countries will work with Europe, India, and China to keep their economies safe. This isn't a friendship anymore. It's more like a business where you have different partners for different things. There are also wild cards, surprises that could change everything. What if China invades Taiwan in 2027? Then all these trade deals won't matter because there will be a huge war. What if a new leader wins in France or Germany who likes Trump? Then the Europe-India deal might fail. What if the Supreme Court in America says Trump's taxes are illegal? Then he loses all his power to threaten other countries. Or what if the BRICS countries finish their new banking system? Then America's stick becomes totally useless. Let's wrap this up. We started with a post on social media at 2:37 in the morning. What looked like a simple fight about taxes was actually the moment our friends decided they didn't need us anymore. This has been happening for 15 years, and we are about 60% of the way to a total change. The big breaking point will be in a few years when the dollar isn't the main money in the world anymore. Your life will change when things get more expensive and it costs more to borrow money. The American empire isn't going to fall in one big explosion. It's falling because of 1,000 small cuts. We just saw cut number 4. When the Korean stock market went up after a threat, it was a sign that the world isn't scared of the big stick anymore. That is not just an opinion, it is math, and math doesn't care about politics. If this video helped you see the world differently, please subscribe. We just watched America's friends build a $27 trillion club in 36 hours while the president was busy on his phone. That isn't making a deal, it is blowback. Tell me in the comments, which scenario do you think will happen? The slow slide or the big crash? Will Korea say yes to Trump? Who is winning more, China, India, or Europe? Share this video with someone who thinks taxes are a simple thing. We are going to keep an eye on the big meeting in France in February and what happens in the Korean government. Oh, and about that Russia-India gas deal? That $60 billion contract is the real secret story. If you want a whole video just about that, let me know. Remember, this isn't about being on a team. It's about seeing how the world really works. The dollar isn't special because we are lucky. It is special because of the choices made in 1944 and 1974. Those choices are being changed right now, not by voters, but by banks and big countries. You can't stop it just by wishing it weren't true. You can only prepare by knowing the facts. One last thing for those of you who stayed until the end. The Japanese stock market went up 1.2% the same day Trump threatened Korea. Why? Because if Korean cars are more expensive to buy in America, people will buy Japanese cars instead. Companies like Toyota are very happy right now. Japan is the secret winner that no one is talking about. Think about that today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. This is how the game is played. Now you know.